4th of January, 1917. Address, 2nd Manchester Regiment, BEF. My dearest, I have joined the regiment, who are just at the end of a 6 weeks' rest. I will not describe the awful vicissitudes of the journey here. I arrived at Folkestone and put up at the best hotel. It was a place of luxury. Inconceivable now. The carpets as deep as the mud here. Golden flunkies. Pages who must have been melted into their clothes and expanded since. Even the porters had clean hands. Even the dogs that licked the crumbs had clean teeth. Since I set foot on Calais Quays, I have not had dry feet. No one knew anything about us on this side, and we might have taken weeks to get here, and must have, but for the fighting our way here. I spent something like £1 in getting my baggage carried from train to train. At the base, as I said, it was not so bad. We were in the camp of Sir Percy Cunningham, who had bagged for his mess the Duke of Connaught's chef. After those 2 days, we were let down gently into the real thing, mud. It has penetrated now into my sanctuary, my sleeping bag, and that holy of holies, my pyjamas. For I sleep on a stone floor, and the servant squashed mud in all my belongings. I suppose my way of a baptism. We are 3 officers in this room. The rest of the house is occupied by servants and the band. The roughest set of knaves I have ever been herded with. Even now their vile language is shaking the flimsy door between the rooms. I chose a servant for myself yesterday, not for his profile, nor yet his clean hands, but for his excellence in bayonet work. For the servant is always by the side of the officer in the charge, and is therefore worth 12 good nurses. Alas, he of the bayonet is in the bombing section, and it is against regulations to employ such a servant. I make shift with another. Everything is makeshift. The English seem to have fallen to the French unhappy-go-lucky non-system. There are scarcely any houses here. The men lie in barns. Our mess room is also an anti and orderly room. We eat and drink out of old tins, some of which show traces of ancient enamel. We are never dry and never off duty. On all the officers' faces there is a harassed look that I've never seen before, and which in England will never be seen outside of jails. The men are just as Bain's father as them, expressionless lumps. We feel the weight of them hanging on us. I have found not a few of the old English Fleetwood musketry party here. They seem glad to see me, as far as the set doggedness of their features would admit. I censored hundreds of letters yesterday, and the hope of peace was in every one. The Daily Mail map, which appeared on the 2nd of January, will be extremely interesting to you. We were stranded in a certain town one night, and I saved the party by collaring an orderly in the streets and making him take us to the sergeant's mess. We were famished, and a mug of beer did me more good than any meal I've ever munched. The place was like a little bit of Blighty, all hung with English greetings and mistletoe. As I could, I collected accoutrement, some here, some there, and almost a complete steel helmets and gas, improved box respirator, etc. The badge of the regiment is some red tabs on the shoulder. Thus I scarcely know any of the officers. The seniors are all regulars. The youngers are, well, several artists. In my room is an artist of the same school I passed. He's also a fine watercolour sketcher. I may have time to write again tomorrow. I have not, of course, had anything from you. I am perfectly well and strong, but unthinkably dirty and squalid. I scarcely dare to wash. Pass on as much of this happy news as may be of interest to people. Love, W.E.O. Sunday, 7th of January, 1917. 2nd Manchester Regiment, British Expeditionary Force. My dearest, it is afternoon. We had an inspection to make from 9 to 12 this morning. I have wandered into a village cafe, where they gave me writing paper. We made a redouble march yesterday, from the last camp to this. The awful state of the roads, and the enormous weight carried, was too much for scores of men. Officers also carried full packs, but I had a horse for part of the way. I was beginning to freeze through the rain when we arrived at our tents. We were all at the mercy of the cold, and, being in health, I never suffered so terribly as yesterday afternoon. I am really quite well, but have sensations kindred to being seriously ill. As I was making my damp bed, I heard the guns for the first time. It was a sound not without a certain sublimity. They woke me again at 4 o'clock. We are two in a tent. I'm with the Lewis gun officer. We beg stretchers from the doctor to sleep on. Our servant brings our food to us in our tent. This would not be so bad, but for the lack of water and the intense damp cold. I've had to censor letters by the 100 lately. They don't make inspiring reading. This morning I have been reading trench standing orders to my platoon. Needless to say, I show a cheerier face to them than I wear when writing these letters. But I must not disguise you from the fact that we are at one of the worst parts of the line. I have lost no possessions so far, but have acquired a pair of boots and a map case. And of course, my valise is heavier by so much dirt. I want a compass really, more than field glasses. My address is 2nd Manchester Regiment BEF. I've not had word from England since I left. I can't tell you any more facts. I have no fancies and no feelings. Positively they went numb with my feet. Love is not quenched, except the enduring flickerings thereof. Your own WE. 9th of January, 1917. 2nd Manchester Regiment, BEF. My dearest, we moved up further yesterday, most of the way on buses. I've just had your long-looked-for letter. It seems wrong that even your dear handwriting should come to such a place like this. There's a terrific strafe on. Our artillery are doing 48-hour bombardments. At night, it's like a stupendous thunderstorm, for the flashes are quite as bright as lightning. When we arrived at this deserted village last night, there had been no billets prepared for the battalion, owing to a misunderstanding. Imagine the confusion. For my part, I discovered, or rather my new chosen and faithful servant discovered, a fine little hut, with a chair in it, a four-legged chair. The roof is waterproof, and there's a stove. There is only one slight disadvantage. There is a howitzer just 70 or 80 yards away, firing over the top every minute or so. I can't tell you how glad I am you got me those defenders. I wear them every night. Every time number 2, that's the nearest gun, fires. All my paraphernalia, all my boots, candle, and nerves take a jump upwards. This phenomenon is immediately followed by a fine rain of particles from the roof. I keep blowing them off this paper. From time to time the village is shelled, but just for now nothing is coming over. Anyhow, there is a good cellar close by. I'm an orderly officer today, and stamp all the battalion's letters. This has taken an age, and I only have a minute or two before I must dispatch this post. I chose to spend an hour or two behind the guns today, just to get used to them. The major commanding the battery was very pleasant indeed. He took me to his HQ and gave me a book of poems to read, as if it was just the most natural thing to do. But all night I shall be hearing the fowl's voice. Number 2, fire. Number 2, fire. Please could you send me a compass? I also need 50 Players cigarettes and some plain chocolate. There is nothing in all this inferno but mud and thunder. I am quite incapable of reading anything but your letters. Please tell Leslie and everybody that I really have no time nor wits to write to them from under the cannon's mouth. Only to you. But it will lull shortly. I am quite well and have plenty to eat. I get more and more used to the cold and wet. With the greatest love, WW1. 10th of January, 1917. 2nd Manchester Regiment, B.E.F. My dearest love, I was censoring letters all afternoon. After tea commenced a big commotion amongst my friendly neighbours, the Howitzers, in the midst of which I wrote a distracted note to Leslie. But the concussions blew out my candle so many times that I lost heart. I am kept pretty busy, though there is only a short parade. The men do practically nothing at all but write letters, but officers have frequent meetings over schemes, maps, instructions. We have 1,000 cares. Yesterday, I took a tour into the line, which we shall occupy. Our little party was shelled going up and across the open country. It was not at all frightful, and only one 4.7 got anywhere near, falling on the plump road. But quite a minute after, we passed that spot. I tell you all these things because afterwards, they sound less exciting. If I leave all my exploits for recitation after the war without mentioning them now, they will appear bombastic, bombshell-bastic. Now, I am not so uncomfortable as last week. For my new servant, who has been a chemist's assistant, has turned out not only to be clean and smart, but enterprising and inventive. He keeps a jolly fire going, and thieves me wood with much cunning. My company commander, that's A company, has been out there since the beginning. 'Tis a gentleman and an original. Next in command is Hayden, whom I greatly like, and once revered as the assistant adjutant to Whitley and Osterwesley. Then come I, for the remaining subalterns or junior. I choose number 3. I was posted to 2, but one day I took no 2, 3 in row when its officer left, because I liked the look of those. Even as they prophesied in the artists, I have taken close interest in feet, and this very day I knelt down with a candle and watched each man perform his anointing with whale oil, praising the clean feet, but not reviling the unclean. As a matter of fact, my servant and one other are the only non-envenomous bodies in the platoon, not to say licentious. Today's letters were rather interesting. The daddy's letters are especially touching, and the number of XXXs to sisters and mothers weighs more in heaven than Victoria Crosses. The Victoria Cross I covet not. Is it not Victorian? Yea. I am not allowed to send a sketch, but you must know I'm transformed now, wearing steel helmet, buff jerkin of leather, rubber waders up to the hips and gauntlets. But for the rifle, we are exactly like Cromwellian troopers. The waders, of course, are indispensable. In miles of trench which I waded through yesterday, there was not 1 inch of dry ground. There is a mean depth of 2 feet of water. It seems an era since Christmas. Day, goose, carols, dickens, and mistletoe. Assuming the war lasts another year, I should get leave 2 or 3 times. For we get it, or should get it, every 3 months. Be sure to have no chloride of lime in the house. Our water is overdosed with it enough to poison us. But in the mess we can get Perrier, fortunately. You need not ask where I am. I've told you as far as I can. These things I need. These things I need. 1 small pair of nail scissors. 2 celluloid hairpin boxes from Boots, with a tightening lid and containing barbaric powder. 50 players naval cut. Some ink pellets. And if possible sweets. We shall not be in touch with supplies by day. I have no anxiety. I cannot do a better thing, or be in a righter place. Yet I am not sainted therefore, so I beg you to annoy, for my wicked pleasure. With the greatest love, WW1. Tuesday, the 16th of January, 1917. 2nd Manchester Regiment, B.E.F. My dearest love, I am sorry that you've not had letters for the last 5 days. I hope that you'd had my 2 letters that posted since you wrote your last, which I received tonight. I can see no excuse for deceiving you about the last 4 days. I have suffered 7th hell. I have not been at the front. I have been in front of it. I held an advanced post, that is, dug out, in the middle of no man's land. We had a march of 3 miles over a shelled road, and then nearly 3 over a flooded trench. After that, we came out to where the trenches had been blown flat out, and had to go over the top. It was of course dark, too dark, and the ground was not mud, not sloppy mud, but an octopus of sucking clay, 3, 4, and 5 feet deep, relieved only by craters full of water. Men have been known to drown in them. Many stuck in the mud, and only got out by leaving their waders' equipment, and in some cases their clothes. High explosives were dropping all around, and machine guns spluttered every few minutes. But it was so dark that even the German flares did not reveal us. 3/4 dead. I mean each of us, 3/4 dead. We reached the dugout, and relieved the wretches therein. I had to go forth and find another dugout, for a still more advanced post when I left. 18 bombers. I was responsible for other posts on the left, but there were junior officers in charge. My dugout held 25 men, tightly packed. Water filled it to the depth of 1 or 2 feet, leaving, say, 4 feet of air. One entrance had been blown in and blocked. So far the other has remained. The Germans knew we were staying there, and decided they shouldn't. Those 50 hours were the agony of my happy life. Every 10 minutes on Sunday afternoon seemed like an hour. I nearly broke down and let myself drown in the water that was now slowly rising over my knees. Towards 6 o'clock, when I suppose you would be going to church, the shelling grew less intense and less accurate, so that I was mercifully a helper to do my duty and crawl, wade, climb, and flounder over no man's land, to visit my other posts. It took me half an hour to move about 150 yards. I was chiefly annoyed by our own machine gun from behind. The sing, sing, sing of the bullets reminded me of Mary's canary. On the whole, I can support the canary better. In the platoon to my left, the sentries over the dugout. The officer of the left platoon has come out, completely prostrated, and is in hospital. I am now as well, I suppose, as ever. I allow myself to tell you these things because I'm never going back to this awful post, and so it will never happen again. It will be the worst the Manchesters have ever held, and now we're going back for a rest. I hear the officer who relieved me left his 3 Lewis guns behind when he came out. He only had 24 hours to go in. He will be court-martialed. In conclusion, I must say that if there are any power whom the soldiery execrates more than another, it is that of our distinguished countrymen. With the greatest love, W.W.1. Friday, 19th of January 1917. 2nd Manchester Regiment of the British Expeditionary Force. We are now a long way back in a ruined village, all huddled together on a farm. We all sleep in the same room, where we eat and try to live. My bed is a hammock of rabbit wire, stuck up beside a great shell hole in the wall. Snow is deep about, and melts through the gaping roof onto my blanket. We are wretched beyond my previous imagination, but safe, very safe. Last night, indeed, I had to go up with the party. We got lost in the snow. I went on ahead to scout, foolishly alone, and when half a mile away from the party got overtaken by gas. It was only tear gas from a shell, and I got safely back to the party in my helmet, with nothing worse than a severe fright. Here is an addition to my list of wants. I almost feel bad sending them. A safety razor. It's in my drawer. And blade socks. 2 pairs. 6 handkerchiefs. Celluloid soap box. You can buy them in Boots. A cigarette holder. Made of bone. Either the 3p or the 6p ones. Paraffin for hair. I can't wash my hair, and I've taken to washing my face with snow. Coal, water, candles, accommodation. Everything is scarce. We have not always air. When I took my helmet off last night, air, it was a heavenly thing. Please thank Uncle for his letter, and send the compass. I scattered abroad some 50 field postcards from the base, which should bring forth a good harvest of letters. But nothing but a daily one from you will keep me going. I think Colin might try a weekly letter. We have a gramophone, and so musical does it seem now that I shall never more disparage one. Indeed, I can never disparage anything in Blighty again. For a long time, except a certain Parvenus living in a street of the same name as you take to go to the Abbey. They want us to call no man's land England, because we keep supremacy there. It is an eternal place of gnashing teeth, like Slough. I have not seen any dead. I've done worse. In the dank air I have perceived it, and the darkness felt. Those Somme pictures are the laughingstock of the army, like the trenches on exhibition at Kensington. No man's land in the snow is like the face of the moon, chaotic, crater-riven, uninhabitable, awful, just the abode of madness. To call it England! I'd soon as call my house Krupp Villa, or my child Clarina, maybe Phosphogena. Now I have let myself tell you more of the facts than I should, in the exuberance of having already done a bit. It is done, and we are all going still further back for a long time. A long time. The people of England need no hope. They must agitate, but yet are not to get agitated even. Let them imagine 50 strong men, trembling as with ague for 50 hours. Dearer and stronger love than ever. W.E.